I'm visiting with Granny today, and I'm going to ask her some more of the wonderful questions that you all have submitted to her. So we'll see what she says today, what she has to say. The first one is, did you think the world would have changed so much when you were a girl?
I just never thought about it at all. Never thought about it.
Do you remember the feeling of young love?
Not really.
Been too long, hadn't it?
Yeah.
What's your favorite book of the Bible?
John.
How many siblings did you have when you was growing up?
I had 4 sisters and 4 brothers, but they were grown and married. You know.
So you were out of them, and you actually had 2 that died as infants too, didn't you? So but you never knew them, of course.
Never knew them.
The others, you were, where did you fall in that number? You were the third from the youngest?
I had, yeah.
Third from
I
the
had 2 brothers younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 brothers older than me. And
4 sisters.
3 sisters older than me.
I think you're leaving somebody else out, aren't you?
I have 4 sisters.
Yeah.
Older than me.
Yeah. Are any of them still living?
My youngest brother's still living.
Mm-hmm. And then they ask if you could share their names. You don't have to tell their whole names, but their first names. What was the 2 first, the infants that didn't live?
I think it was Willabelle. No, it was Willa Mae and Thomas Cash.
Mm-hmm.
It was a boy and a girl.
Yeah. And then the ones that then just go through the roll, starting with the oldest there. Was that be Faye?
Faye. And Jean. And Junior. And Dorothy. And George and Genevieve.
And you.
And then me. And James and Lucky.
What was the hardest time in your life you can remember?
I don't think I ever really had any hard times. I always felt protected by Mom and Dad.
Did you ever eat cornmeal mush?
We called it cornmeal gravy. I still love it today. I buy me some fat back and fry it and use the grease to make my cornmeal gravy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a small cook pan, iron skillet, that I cook my cornbread in. And I make the cornmeal gravy, and I eat every bite of it in a pan that big for my lunch. I loved it.
So you didn't ever eat cornmeal, like it's more like grits or something, or cornmeal porridge, I guess you would say.
It'd be more like porridge, I guess.
Yeah, but you just preferred the gravy, your family did.
Yeah.
Daddy said his mother would make the cornmeal mush, and then what they didn't eat, she would pour it into something and let it set up, and then cut it once it got firm, and then fry it, and they'd eat it with syrup.
No, we didn't do that. We just had
Cornmeal gravy.
cornmeal gravy.
If you could leave only one treasure to your family, what would it be?
Well, I would want them to know how much I loved them.
What about fads from your childhood, or maybe say when you were a teenager in high school? Was there a certain way girls and boys wore their hair?
Oh, well, people had different hairstyles, some short, some long.
Was that when the boys would flip theirs back, like brush it back with some gel or dippity-doo or something?
Yeah.
Brill cream?
Brill cream, I guess.
Yeah. That's how your brothers wore theirs?
Mostly, I guess.
What about as far as clothing? Girls mostly wore dresses and skirts?
Most everybody had a can, and I was so skinny I had a can. It was a slip you wore under your skirt so it make you look bigger.
So it
make
make
your skirts fly
stand out.
And it had a little poodle dog's picture on it.
Hmm.
That was
That was in
sort of
style.
the style back then.
What about shoes? You just wear little loafers or?
We had like Oxfords, they called them, white and brown.
Okay. If you could go back in your life, what year would you go back to and why?
I guess the year I got married.
Happy. You was happy that time. Would you consider giving crochet lessons?
I would if my health was better, but my health is bad, and sometimes I have to rest in the evenings. I just don't think I would.
Be able to stand it. What about people could do though like you did? They could get a book, it's how you taught yourself, or of course on YouTube today there's all kinds of people showing you how.
Yeah.
What do you think the most important Appalachian tradition is to follow that you think everyone should follow?
Just being close to family and friends and church.
Yeah. Appalachian culture is definitely family-centered. Do you have advice for first-time grandparents?
Well, somebody said it's easier to have grandchildren because you can just spoil them and send them back home. You don't have to treat them like you did your own children.
Can you knit?
No.
If you could meet and talk with anyone from history, who would it be and why?
I just never thought about that. I can't quite answer it.
What 10-year period of life was most enjoyable?
When I was having my children.
How long did you live in Gastonia?
I would go in the summertime when school was out, and my sister would keep me a while, and then she'd bring me back home.
What about right before you met Daddy, though, when you was working? Probably less than a year.
Yeah, I had a job, but I just got homesick and wanted to come back to the mountains.
Did your brother live there?
No. Well, one of them did for a while. He had a job. He lived there for a while.
Which one?
James, but he didn't live with my sister.
Okay.
He lived out by himself.
Okay. What was your sister's name that you did live there with when you
Dorothy.
go? Dorothy. Aunt Dot, we called her.
Mm-hmm.
Most trouble you got in as a child?
Well, I can't remember getting in trouble.
You didn't get any whippings or
I
spankings?
never got a whipping.
You was a good girl. What's your favorite song?
Precious Memories.
What about your favorite singing artist? Who sings that you love?
Well, of course, my husband sung. I like to hear him. And now my children and grandchildren sing.
What size and kind of crochet hooks do you use? What size, I guess, first?
Well, I started out with the age it's most commonly used. And then to make different items, it always says what needle to use. And I had to learn to use bigger needles to make sweaters and smaller needles to make like Christmas ornaments and stuff.
What are they made out of?
Some of them are metal and some of them are plastic.
Would you like people to send you crochet patterns?
If they had some they just wanted to share, it would be all right, but I wouldn't want to put them to any trouble.
Were you mischievous?
No.
I find that hard to believe, but okay. Can you drive?
I can drive. I just didn't get my license renewed.
You give up driving, you let people chauffeur you now, don't you?
Yeah, I depend on somebody to take me places.
Did you ever smoke?
Never.
What is your favorite crochet stitch, thinking about crochet?
Well, there's really not a favorite. It's just according to what you're making.
You pretty much like all of them, don't you? Did you have a favorite childhood toy?
Just my bride doll. I got a doll when I was a little girl that I've still got.
Yeah, we've got a video I can link to that where Granny shows the doll and talks more about it. What's one thing you enjoy today that has been invented since you were alive, like during your lifetime?
A TV.
You like to watch TV? What do you like to watch?
Oh, just
The westerns, and
I mostly like to watch the westerns.
you like the Mountain Men, though. You like Alone, that where they drop people out in the wilderness.
And yesterday I watched Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
I love to watch that.
Did you ever have can you share a most embarrassing moment?
I've had a few, but I'd rather not.
Okay. Childhood, what was your childhood home like? I think they meant like, just tell about some of the actual houses that you lived in.
Well, I can't remember when I was real little where we lived. But then we lived in one house, and it was okay, but we had to move from there to another house, and I liked it better. It was a bigger house. Then we moved from there to another house, and I liked it better. It wasn't bigger, but I just liked the place better. I just liked everywhere we lived.
Did you have outhouses, I guess?
Yeah.
Did you draw your water for baths and take a bath in a wash tub?
Yeah, and at the last house we lived in, we had a spring before we moved in with Grandpa. We had a spring.
Which of your children was the most stubborn?
I think all of them were stubborn. They had a big streak of their daddy in them.
A big streak of Wilson.
Yeah.
Did children have to quit school to help at home in your area when you were young?
Yeah, I've heard kids tell the teacher that they wouldn't be back next year. They had to help at home.
How do we all stay so fit with the good food that we eat? All the good food we eat. How do we stay fit?
I don't think I've ever stayed fit. Honestly.
Well,
I just always ate what I liked.
And worked hard. That was probably the working hard part. How long have you been a widow?
Since 2016.
How did you cope at first, in the beginning?
Well, it was awful hard because I was just so used to being here with Jerry, and it was awful hard to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner without him.
How did you cope? What did you do to help yourself? You crocheted, and we all stayed with you. And
Yeah, I had my kids to help me more, and that's how I survived it. I still miss him today and think of things he'd say and do. He was really a good person.
He was. One person had asked if there's an easy way to can green beans. I have a blog post that shows how Granny cans her green beans, so I can just link to that in the description. But it's not, use a pressure canner is how you do it. What's the greatest joy in your life right now?
My great-grandchildren.
And your crochet, I'd say.
And my crochet.
Okay, that's a good one to stop right there. So we hope you enjoyed this entry in the series we're doing, asking Granny questions that you all submitted, and we hope that you'll tune in for the next one.